Cardinal Dolan posted on his Facebook page yesterday about Grandparents' Day, and he said this. He said, "Naturally we believe God is everywhere, but sometimes he gets busy, so he sends grandparents in his place." Isn't that awesome, you know? And we know that. What do grandparents do? They spoil their grandchildren. That's what grandparents do. That's what I experienced with my grandmother. I still remember, again, all these various things that she did for me, not because I deserved them, but because she loved me. You know, taking me to Cedar Point, going on the witch's wheel with me, almost dying on the witch's wheel because she loved me, you know? I think about, I'd go over there and have a sleepover with her and Grandpa when I was like, 3 or 4, and she'd let me eat cheese and crackers in her bed while we were watching TV, and there'd be crumbs all over the place. Now, my mean mother wouldn't let me do that, but Grandma did, darn it. She'd take me to Put-in-Bay, her and Grandpa, and she knew that the only reason that I ever wanted to go to Put-in-Bay was to drive the golf cart. It's all I ever wanted to do. Grandma was willing to break the law for her grandson to drive that golf cart, you know, because she loved me. You know, the number of rosaries that she's prayed for me. I mean, all these small and big ways that, again, she showed so much love to me. All these other things that she did for me and never did for my brothers since I was the favorite. I mean, all these things that just, again, it was just this like an overabundance of love. And that's what grandparents do. And grandparents do that so well. You know, and sometimes I think we can forget about that, you know. Whether they're living or deceased, again, we can forget about how grandparents very much are the image of God and his abundant love in our world. And you all who are grandparents do it in such profound and remarkable ways, sometimes in the simplest of ways and sometimes in the most grand of ways. But boy, you do it. And today, Pope Francis was very right in saying we need to pray for you and honor you and respect you and reach out to you. You know I got to call my grandma today. You know, got to call both my grandmas today because I got to show that love for them. Again, my dear friends, we reflect today on how God is a God of abundance. God is a God of abundance, always pouring out that love upon us, even though we don't, rarely do we ever deserve it. And he continues to pour that out, and he continues to give us what we need and then to multiply that when we need more. That's the whole thing of the multiplication of the loaves and fish. We see again another example of how God is a God of abundance. You know, you got this little boy who's got 5 loaves and 2 fish, and there's 5,000 men there, not including the women and children, and everybody goes, well, that ain't going to work. That's not going to work. And the little boy's like, I don't know what you're going to do with this. And Jesus says, oh, I know what I'm going to do with this. And Jesus takes what that little boy thought was not enough and makes it more than enough. And I think that's the other kind of lesson for today, is that God gives us what we need when we need it. And it's always in abundance. You know? And so, again, we might look at ourselves and go, boy, I don't have what it takes. I can't do this. I can't do that, you know. Again, a grandparent might look at all their grandkids and go, I don't know how I'm going to take care of all of them. And yet sometimes or somehow you figure out how to do that. And why? Why can you do it? Because God multiplies what you need the most. Whether that is strength to deal with those grandkids at that point. Whether it's patience that we need to deal with this situation or this person at that point in our life. Whether it's the fact that we need grace to deal with whatever temptations that we're struggling with in our lives. God is a God of abundance. And he takes all of those things and he multiplies them so that we can continue to serve him. And I was talking to a young man the other day, and he was over at Stritch when I was there, and when he was early on, he was completely like shy and like awkward, and again, barely would talk to people. His senior year, he was cast for the lead role in Grease, the musical. He was Danny Zuko, and I'm like, how did that happen? I said, 2 years ago, you wouldn't talk to people, And as we kind of work through that, we recognize that God multiplied that talent that was in him and gave him that strength and that courage to step into that role. Here's one of the things I find, though, lately about people. Just as I talk to them and deal with them and all that, we oftentimes can get so jealous because we see what God has done for somebody else, and we're like, why isn't he doing that for me? Even though he is. In our own way. And we can compare ourselves to so many other people. And comparison is the killer of joy. Simply put, yesterday at the 5 p.m. Mass, there was a guy here that was visiting, and he literally had his hair braided, and it was down to his ankles. And I said, how long have you been growing that out? And he said, since 1998, he has not cut his hair. I graduated from high school in 98. And I found myself remarkably jealous of him and his hair. I said, well, now that you're visiting, can't you just, cut half off and we could just do something up there, But again, as we find ourselves maybe jealous of how God's multiplying things in other people, we also have to realize that that's because they need it at that point. And maybe they have all sorts of other things going on in their heart that we would never want. I found that oftentimes in my own life where I look at somebody and I'm like, well, I just wish that I had this that they had. And then I find out what they really have, and I'm like, oh yeah, don't want that anymore. Happy with my life. Right? Today is a good opportunity for all of us to recognize what God has done for us, what he has given to us in overabundance. It's also an opportunity to ask him to multiply what we need right now. And I think as we receive Holy Communion today and we take Christ into our bodies, it's our opportunity to say, God, here's what I need. I need more strength. I need more patience. I need to not compare myself to other people. I need the strength to deal with these temptations. I need the ability to pray more and to focus on that. I need that strength on Sunday mornings to get my rear end to Mass. I need whatever it is, Lord, multiply it. And because we have a God of abundance, he will.